Okay,
Hi.
hi everybody, and welcome. Hi everyone, my name is Holly Temple, and I write on a blog with my friend Becky Beaupre Gillespie about work-life balance. Our blog is called beckyandholly.com, and we spell it Becky, Becky, and HOLLEE.com. So I hope to see you over at our site at some point to talk work-life balance and parenting. But the reason I'm here today is my friend, the unexperienced mom, just started this great site about going to conferences when you're new, and that's what I just did for Blistum in February of 2010. So I thought I would tell you a little bit about my experience with the hope that it will help you make a decision about going to a blogger conference and if it's the right move for you. So, why did I end up at a blog conference? It's sort of a funny story because I was convinced that I would be the only law professor or lawyer at this conference, which I wasn't. And I felt like, wow, I'm really going to be out of place here. But I went because I'm writing a book with Becky about modern motherhood called Good Enough is the New Perfect. It's going to be released by Harlequin's nonfiction imprint next spring. And some of the amazing women from the book were going to be at the conference. So I figured, well, here's a chance to meet some of these people and interview them in person, and maybe I'll make a few contacts for the blog. Well, I made more than a few contacts for the blog, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But let me tell you how I felt the few days before the conference. Have you ever felt that feeling when you're on Facebook and all of a sudden you see your high school boyfriend's picture pop up and he's like, hey, what's up? On the chat message? That's how I felt. I felt like all of a sudden I was my 16-year-old self, and I worried that, would I be liked and would I seem cool enough? Because some of these women seem so glamorous. So I definitely had some pre-conference jitters, and Allie Worthington, who was in charge of the conference, was very sweet to me, and some of her friends, Rachel from A Southern Fairy Tale, sent me notes, don't worry, everybody will be friendly. But I have to say, I was nervous. I did have a friend who I would be meeting there, who I hadn't seen since Northwestern, since our college days. So I had that sort of in my back pocket. And then a blogger from in town found me and said, I'm going to be there too. So I had a few familiar faces, but I was nervous. I started seeing all of these tweets. They were like, have you made your handmade notebooks? And do you have your sticky thing to put on the back of your laptop? And do you have your Pokin? And I don't even know what that was. So I was like, whoa, what am I getting into? But I did what I sometimes tell my students to do and what I needed to do when I first went into court, and that was sort of fake it till you make it, just act the part. And I thought, I'm old enough now that I don't really have to worry so much what everyone thinks of me. If I go and have an interesting experience and look at it from that perspective, it will probably be worth it. So I sort of faked it till I made it, and that's how I got myself mentally prepared to go. It was an incredible experience. The conference was so impressive, every part of it, from the food, the location, the speakers, the organization. It exceeded my expectations. So, and I've been to a lot of conferences, academic conferences that are very well run, but this had a great spirit, and people were very, very welcoming and friendly. And I've only been to Blistum, so that's all I can speak to. But as someone who was brand new, I've only been blogging for 6 months. People were very welcoming. It was exciting when I got to see, connect the names with the faces. And people said, oh, I've stopped by your blog, and that felt good too. One other thing that I put in my notes here, I heard a lot of women kind of consoling each other about missing their children, and I totally related to that. When my kids were little, it was very hard for me to travel and go to conferences. And I'll never forget, my husband called me once. I took maybe 24 hours to go down to Fort Lauderdale to speak at a conference, and he called me at 8:30 at night, and I was on a bus to a conference event, and he said that my son Henry had climbed up on his changing table and was looking out the window, banging on the window saying mama, mama, and it broke my heart. But I will tell you that as your kids get older, it is much easier, at least for me, to travel. When I told them that I was going to this conference, their response was, guys party, and then they slap their butts or something. They think it's like guys weekend. That's great. So it does get easier, and I think it's so important for women to take time to nurture themselves and to take a break. And we all were, I think every woman there who didn't bring her children was happy to see them when she got home and felt reinvigorated in the parenting realm. And finally, I just wanted to say it was worth it to make these connections. I made connections for my book in terms of content. I found women who I wanted to include who had valuable information for me. I made contacts in terms of finding guest bloggers for my blog, having the opportunity to post on other people's blogs. And I also just found a community of support for my book and for my project and for my message. Good Enough is the New Perfect really is my passion right now. And it was so affirming to have other women relate and say that it resonated for them. So for me, Blistum far exceeded my expectations. And to anyone who's thinking about a first conference, I say just go for it. You really don't have a lot to lose. And if you put yourself out there in the slightest bit and just say, I'm new, I think you'll be welcomed with open arms and make professional connections, make friendships, and really have a great time. And don't all moms need that? So, signing off, this is Holly from Becky and Holly, and thank you so much for listening to my second vlog ever on being a conference newbie. Welcome to Talk.